So we're right on the top of Mem Amud Aleph. I left out, I should have really finished the last line, but we'd seen a long brisa that started back on Daf Lametes Amud Aleph. So the brisa had said right at the beginning, Kol hanitnal mizbeach hapnimi v'asa kasher asa ma b'lamid. This is all very important. This again, we're going to just remind ourselves because this is what the parak is talking about. The five chatois hapnimis. So the first one mentioned in the pasuk is the par kohen Mashiach. Then we have the par halam davar shel tzibur. Then we have the par and sar of Yom Kippur. And what did I leave out? I know there's a fifth one. We did the Seer Nasi. So, right? I think we got everything. Oh, well, no, the Siria Avodas Kechavim. So and these are the chatoyis hapnimius. These are the chatoyis that are brought inside, and they're mentioned in the pasuk, right? So, I'm sorry, the Seer Nasi is a different thing. It's not brought inside. But yeah, again, the Parhalam Davar, the Par Koyim Mashiach, which is first, and Parhalam Davar Shal Tzibur, Seer Avodas Kechavim, and Par B'Sar Shal Yom Kippur. Okay, and we said in the Brisa that v'asa kasher asa. The Pasuk says legabe. This is all in Parhalam Davar Shal Tzibur. It says you should do to this Parhalam Davar Shal Tzibur like you did to the Chatas. Now the Mabal Lamid, Mabal, what is it coming to tell you this for? We already listed what you're supposed to do on the Par Halam Davar Shal Tzibur. So why is the Torah telling you v'asa kasher asa, which is a repetition? It's telling you all the hazayis that they're ma'akiv. Then the Brisa asked, so that I would assume that if it's doubled, it's only coming to tell you about the Zayin hazayis, the 7 hazayis toward the paroiches that you do in the Heichel for the Parham Davar Shal Tzibur. How do you know also the Dalet hazayis on the Mizbeach HaPnimi? The Mishnah said, the Brisa, I'm sorry, had said the reason why I would think it's talking about the Zayin hazayis is because the Zayin hazayis are always required. So now the Gemara is asking, what did the Brisa mean when it said the Zayin hazayis are always required? Why would we have assumed that the repetitive, the Shana La'akav, is referencing the Zayin hazayis as opposed to the Dalet hazayis? Why are the Dalet hazayis more often? Why are they always necessary? So that's what we're up to. On the top of Mem Amud Aleph, I'm sorry, maybe I think I might have left out. We're learning as it's supposed before Shlema Filana Chai Basarach. Amama. Eli Elamat and Shavasham Akvis B'chol Makom. Heicha. Where do we see? Where does the Brisa get this from? That it's saying that the Matan Shava are always Ma'akiv. Amar Papa Bepara Ubenagayim. It's talking about the Hazoyis of a Para Aduma as part of the process of bringing a Para Aduma is you mazit in the Heichel, and by Nagayim as well. When you have it, when someone has a taras, there also the Torah requires Shiva Nagayim. So those Shiva Nagayim as well are also they're all required because it says Zois Tia Legabe Taras, and it tells you it's La'akav. So since in Para and Nagayim, by Para Aduma and Nagayim as well, in Saras, it's Ma'akiv, so we would assume that when we have a drasha over here that's been Chaz Shana Lav La'akiv, that's also talking about the Sheva Nagayim, the Sheva Hazais. So we said, Matan Arba Minay Time Alem Kanyasa. Zok the Gemara. So that was the next, the Brisa continued. And it said, since it says Kanyasa, that tells you that the Matan Arba, the Zayin Hazayis are also required. Frankly, Maishma Matan Zayin Ksivan Ukfelin, Matan Dalad Nami Ksivan Ukfelin. The Gemara asks, what was the limud that we had? So we just explained why it was necessary to have a limud for the Matan Dalid, but because the first limud, where the Torah says Kain Yasa, is talking about the Matan Zayin. But what was the actual limud of the Matan Zayin? The limud came from the fact that the Torah said Kain Yasa. You should do just like it was done before. So the Gemara is asking, when it says Kain Yasa, that l'chayra includes not just the Matan Zayin, but also the Matan Dalet. So you can't. How could you say that the limud is only limited to the Matan Zayin? But the way it's not an extra pasuk. Is the fact that the Torah said you should do as it was said by the other carbon. So that includes that by the Parkai and Mashiach. But that includes also not just Matan Zayin, but Matan Dalet. So l'chayra, the limud that we said that we were trying to say only includes Matan Zayin should include both of them. Rav Shimon. Well, it says no. The reason why we need a pasuk is because if you hold like Rav Shimon. According to Rav Shimon, when we say you should do kasher also, it's not going to include the dalet because the Torah never said explicitly that in this pasuk that you should do the matan dalet. The Tanya, Lamaila Aimer Karen Kronis Stein, Lamatu Aimer Karen Kronis Arba. And this is a different Karen Kronis from the Karen Kronis we had before. Before, where we had Karen Kronis, where Beishamai and Basil argued whether it was 6 or 5 or 4. That was talking about the Karen and Kronis by a Chatas Yachid. Now we're talking about the Torah says Karen and Kronis. It actually says Kronis, which is the Lashon Rabbim, so we dash it as 2. That we're talking about in the Chatois Apnimius, the Chatois that the dam was brought inside and were burnt outside of Yerushalayim. So it says Kronis, which is the Lashon Rabbim, so that means 2. And it says it both it says Lamaila by the Parkai Mashiach, and it says as well Lamata by the Paralam Davar Shel Tzibur. Arba, Divrei Reb Shimon. According to Reb Shimon, so that's where we get it from, because it says Kronis twice by two different karbanas. So we never have a single carbon that says all 4. It doesn't say all 4 by Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. So we can't say that when it says Kain Yasa, you should do as it was described, and it's Le'akev, because it was only described two hazois. The other 2 we have to learn from the other kronos that it said by Parkai Mashiach. So that's the reason why we had to say it over. But the Brisa continues, and it says we're going to just say over the Manda Amr who disagrees with Reb Shimon, and of course that's going to require its own analysis that it doesn't really go back to this cheshbon. If Yehuda says it's not needed. You don't need Karen Kronis. Yehuda says, no, we could learn out that you need Zayin Hazoyis on the Kronis because it says Ba'ayel Mayid that you should do the Zrikas on the Ayel Mayid. Anything that's in the Ayel Mayid. And since there are 4, even though it only said Kronis, but it says you should do it on the Kronis that are in the Ayel Mayid. That includes all 4 of the Kronis that are in the Ayel Mayid. So then, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when it says Kain Yasa, it means those 4 hazoyas that were just mentioned, and therefore they're going to be Shanon of La'akev. Frakta Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Kain Yasa Me'avid Lei. So according to this, we said according to Rabbi Yehuda, you learn out the Daled Kronos from the pasuk itself is expressing Daled Kronos. So there's no need for Kain Yasa. What is he going to do with Kain Yasa that we said as the second limud to tell you the Dalet Hazayis? So the Torah had not said about the Par Yom Kippurim. Again, remember, we're in the pasuk of Par Koyin, Par Halam Davar. There's also this is another one of the 5 Chatois Pnimius, the Par Yom Kippurim, and it doesn't say anywhere in the pasuk of Par Yom Kippur that you need to do smicha. You have to lean your hands. The Kohen Gadol has to lean his hands on the par. And shirei adam, there's no requirement that the shirei adam be spilled out on the side in the mizbeach hachitzin. So minayin tamid loimer kein yasa. That's why the Torah says kein yasa, that you should do to this. To when we say kein yasa, meaning the Parakah Yom Kippur should be done the same way as this Parakah Mashiach, that should require smicha and shiurei adam. Practic Gemara. What are you saying that we need this kein yasa to tell you that the Par Yom Kippur has the same din that needs smicha and shiurei adam? Par la par ze Yom Kippurim. The Brisa itself had gone through the whole pasuk by par helm davashel tzibur, and one of the words it says is lapar, and it said lapar means ze Yom Kippur. It's telling you that the din of the par Yom Kippur is the same as the karbanos of Yom Kippur are the same as the chatois pnimi of par helm davashel tzibur. So it's no, we need both of them. We need both kein yasa and lapar to tell Yom Kippur. Sak the chamina hana meili avida. If it would just be from par, I would say it's only going to have the same Yom Kippur. The karbanos of Yom Kippur are only going to have on those that are ma'akav kapara, the hazayis. Avoid the loy ma'akav kapara, like the smicha and shiurei adam. He doesn't have the same din. It's not going to require to be brought on the mizbeach hachitz and kamashmon. That's why you need both. Now the Gemara goes and asks the other way. So Rabbi Yehuda had learned, he had the kein yasa extra because he said you don't need to learn Yom Kippur. You're able to learn out all four hazayis because the pasuk had said them clearly over here, so you don't need it for that. Rabbi Yehuda, because it says ba'ayil mayid that you need, that tells you all four hazayis in this pasuk. So what is Rav Shimon Hai ba'ayil mayid mayavale? What is he doing with this word ayil mayid that Rabbi Yehuda had used to tell you that you need to use all four kronos by the hazayis? What does Rav Shimon do with it? So the Gemara ba'ayil mayid mibayale shem nifchasa tikra shel heichal lahayamaz. It's coming to tell you that when you do the avodah pnim of the par helm davashel tzibur, if there was a break in the ceiling of the heichal, if there was a hole in the heichal, it was not you cannot be mazah, you cannot complete the avodah, because the Torah says oil might, it has to be in the oil, in the tent of meeting in the oil, that has to be mile, it has to be covering on top. The idach, now this is a strange usage in the Gemara. The Gemara says v'idach, so now of course whenever we say that, now how are you going to learn out that din? So we say me'idach me'asher. Now me'asher does not tell you this din of tikra shel heichal. So when we say me'idach, we're really being chayzer on what we said before, that we said kein yasa. So we're saying we need ayil mayid to tell you this din of nifchasa tikra shel heichal. So being chayzer now what you said, that Yehuda learned out that all four kronos had to have been used for hazayis from ayil mayid, but it's rather from me'asher. The fact that asher ba'ayil mayid, that tells you it has to be all four. Whatever is in the ayil mayid has to be used. V'idach asher lo darish, and Rav Shimon is not darish asher. Okay, so that is the end of that sequence. But now we're going to go back to the beginning of it. We had said that why do you need to have? Our original question was, what do you need a pasuk to tell you that the dalet hazayis, to tell you that the dalet hazayis are separately from the zayin hazayis, that they're la'akev? Why can't you say because the Torah says that you should do to this chatas like was done before, and the pasuk had already said the whole sequence of what you should do for the parakah halam davashal tzibur. So why is the pasuk telling you that you should do like was done before? So we had said that the reason, according to Shimon, the reason why it has to say that is because even though it says you should do as was done before, we never actually said all four hazoyas in this pasuk. But according to Yehuda, who said that we learned it out from either we first thought from Mayel Mayed or we learned it out in the end from Asher, that the Dalit Hazayas are included in the pasuk. Again, why do we need a separate pasuk to tell you that the Dalit Hazayas are required? So Abaya Amar Yehuda Nami Yitzrach. He says no. Even this teretz that we need to say the Dalit Hazayas because they're not included. It would even be needed according to Yehuda, who says you learn it out from Asher. I might think that the Dalit Hazoyis are similar to Smicha and Sheir Adam. The Avagav, the Ksiva and the Kvelim, even though the Torah said, first of all, it mentioned the Smicha and Legabi Param Davashal Tzibur, it says Smicha and it says the Sheir Adam should be poured on the Yisrael Mizbeach. And then repeats it and says you should do this, all this should be done to this Chatas. Loi Ma'akva, and even so, it's not Ma'akiv, which we learn out from Psukim, we're going to see later. Let's say the Dalit Hazayis also won't be Ma'akiv. Kamash Malon. So that's why we have to say, why we need this pasuk to tell you, B'dafka, that the Dalit Hazayis are also Ma'akiv. Now we're going to continue. So that's the end of our analysis of the first thing that it said in that brisa, and we're going to go slowly through the rest of the brisa. So the brisa then continued in its reading of the pasuk of Param Davashal Tzibur. The pasuk says, "V'asal lepar kasher asal lepar chatas keni asal loy v'chipa aleim akoyim nisplachlem." What does it say? Lepar v'asal lepar zepar Yom Kippur. It's coming to tell you the par that's brought in Kippur has the same din as this par koyin Mashiach. Lamai hilchasa. In what way do we have to tell you this halacha? The par Yom Kippur is the same as the Param Davashal Tzibur. Ila akev, it's coming to tell you that the avodas are ma'akev pshita. Chukah ksiv b'vei. It says legabe the par Yom Kippurim. The Torah uses the word chukah, as it says v'hoyis zois lechem l'chukah sayim l'chap al bnei Yisrael mikol chatoisem achas b'shana. So whenever you have the lashon chukah, that means it's ma'akev. Amar Racha Yitzchak le'nitzach el Rabbi Yehuda. No, we need it according to Yehuda. The Ameki ksiv chukah, when it says chukah in par Yom Kippurim, Advarim Hanasim B'Bigdei Love Mifnim. It's talking about those things that are done in the Kachay Kachem, which you do with the white begadim. You don't wear the Kohen Gadol takes off his gold begadim, his gold Bigdei Kahuna, because it's Shelo Yasa Katega Sanega, not Sanega Katega. So She'im Hiktim Ma'isa L'Chavera Le'asav L'Klum. That it's coming to tell you that legabi those things, it says chukah, to tell you that if you do them in the wrong order, in the avodas pnim, in the avodas not pnim, the avodas kachay kachim, you would not yet. But those avodas that are done outside of the kachay kachim, but if he doesn't do those, if he does what he does in the Heichel, the Hazayas and such things, if you don't do them in order, it's not Ma'akev. So therefore, Hazayas Nami Loy Ma'akvi. I'm sorry, I skipped. So I would say maybe that since we have a pasuk telling you that the order of the Hazoyas in the Heichel is not Ma'akev, maybe if you do them all together, that it's not going to be Ma'akev. Kamash Malan, so that's why we have Par to tell you this din. Par is a reference to the Par of Yom Kippur, that even though it says Chukah, I might say, since we say, maybe consider Loi Ma'akvi, Hazoyas Nami Loi Ma'akvi, so therefore we have to have Par. Is it really possible to say this? That that you need par to tell you that Yom Kippur is ma'akev, the hazoyis, in spite of the fact that loy kasidron is kosher. But Tanya, V'chila mechaper sakodesh. The Torah says v'chila when he finishes to be mechaper in the kodesh, meaning in the kachay kachim, im kippur kila, v'im loy kippur loy kila. That tells you that if he did all of the hazoyas, then he gets a kapara, and if he didn't, he didn't. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So Amalei Rabbi Yehuda. So that tells you that we see from here we have a different pasuk according to Rabbi Akiva that tells you that the hazoyas are ma'akev. Because it says if he's loy keeper, loy kila, if he didn't do all of them, he's not. He hasn't finished his avodah, then it's not going to be complete. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda Ma'alei Ne'amar im kila keeper, im loy kila loy keeper. He says no. The Torah didn't say that. The pasuk says b'chila michaper sakodesh. The first thing it says is that he has to finish it. I'm sorry. So the kasha is from Yehuda that Rabbi Akiva said that if he finished all, that whatever's ma'akev over here is going to be ma'akev, and whatever's ma'akev normally is ma'akev, whatever's not ma'akev is not ma'akev. So according to Rabbi Akiva, he says that doing the shiarei hadam on the yisoid is not going to be ma'akev because it's not ma'akev in other places because it says b'chila mechiper. If he does whatever is normal to finish, he's mechaper, and if not, not. But Rabbi Yehuda says fakir, it should be the other way around. Over here, it's telling you din. In kila, if you did everything, that's the order. It's not in keeper kila that if you finished whatever is normal to do, then you're finished. But it's the other way around. In kilo, you have to finish everything. Meaning, this is an extra din to tell you that everything is ma'akev. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we have over here a raya that all the hazoyas bifnim on the par Yom Kippurim are ma'akev. So, what do you need par for? Amar Papa, so Papa answers, Lo nitzrucha ela es dam ubetfila. It needs for these three things to tell you es and dam and tefillah. And the Gemara is going to explain what those limudim are. Es Amar Rav Acha Yaakov lo nitzrucha ela lahachshir amin shebe'etzba. That's coming to tell you that if he has a blemish on his finger, if he has some kind of wound on his finger, that he's still going to, that's not going to be ma'akev. It's not going to be considered to be a chatzitza. Bedam, sheyeh bedam. That tells you that there has to be enough dam in the kli from the time that it was makubal in the kli for all 7 hazos. And sheyeh bedam, shir tefillah, meikar. The tavel. And what does the Tavel tell you? Below misafik. It tells you that you should the kohen has to dip his finger to the dam, and he shouldn't shmear it on from the side of the kli. So Gemara, and this next part of the Gemara is very unusual wording. It says v'israch l'michtav, which usually introduces a reason why we need to say all these 3 dinim. But these 3 dinim are all separate from one another. There's no way to have learned them out. So it's really just seems a little out of place. This, which I think the Mefarshim ask about why it's said over here. So if it just said v'tavel, I wouldn't know the din that you need shir tefillah meikara. If it would have just said bedam, I wouldn't have known the din of that it has to be toivel his finger. Okay, now the Gemara just says, once we're talking about the Par Kayin Mashiach, once it was brought up, the pasuk of Par Kayin Mashiach says, "V'nosan hakohen min adam al kanis hazbeich keteres hasam l'fnei Hashem asher ba'oil moed, v'eskol tom haba dam hapar yishbach al yisoid mizbeich ha'ilo asher pesach oil moed." So it says, "Al kanis mizbeich keteres hasam l'fnei Hashem." So the Gemara asks, what does it say mizbeich keteres hasam Lomali, what do you have to say then? We know it's talking about bifnim. We already said that. So what does it have to describe it in this way? So commercial the normal avoida of the Mizbeach Hazav in the Heichel was for K'tairis Asam, the daily K'tairis. So we said if it wasn't yet prepared for the K'tairis Asamim, and you want to do, and now you want to do this avoidus pnimius, so you would not be able to do this is any of the chatois pnimius. You would not be able to do the avoida on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. We said, Rav Papa said, that you need, why do you need to say par to include it to be Medame to Yom Kippur? That's to tell you these three dinim of that if there's a wound on his finger, or that it's still mechaper, and that it has to be enough dam from the beginning, from when it goes into the kli, to all the hazoyas, and that he has to be toivel and amsab. We have a brisa that bolsters this. The Tanya covers the Papa. Asa kasha asa matam loyma. What does the Torah say? Asa kasha asa matam loyma lepar. What is lepar? The rabbis par yemikurim l'chol masha omer be'inin. Divrei Rebbe. Rebbe says that the par is coming to tell you in addition to what we had said before. You also need l'chol masha omer be'inin, and we're going to say that's these three things. What's this? Aleph. Divrei Rebbe. Amar Bishmal. Kal. He says, no, we don't need this pasuk of power. You can learn it out from a kal v'chayma. Umaba malkum shaloi hishva carbon lekarbon. Just like we see that you can have two karbanas that they don't come from the same animal. One is a soyer as it's going to be, and one is a par. Hishva ma'isam l'ma'isam. They still have to do the same avodas. Malkum shehushvu carbon lekarbon. Over here we're talking about the par helm davashal tzibur and the par yom kippur. Ein din sheyasa sheyishva ma'isa l'ma'isa. We don't need a pasuk to tell you that they have the same requirements, because you can learn out from a kal v'chaymer. A kal v'chaymer doesn't really. I don't think it means really a kal v'chaymer. Yeah, I guess it is a kal v'chaymer. Those things, if two things are if you have two different animals, they both have the same requirements of avodas. So too, certainly two things that are both the same, both from a bar, will also require the same avodas. What do you need par for? We use it to tell you the din of par koyin Mashiach. That par koyin Mashiach as well will have the same din. That it's going to require these three, that all of the all the par koyin gadol's hazayas are la'ak. I'm sorry. So elamatam elapar is a par halm davashal tzibur. Lapar is a par koyin Mashiach. So we used to say par is par halm davashal tzibur, and par is the par koyin Mashiach. So we're going to have to still see what does it mean zeh par halam davashal tzibur, because we're talking about the parsha of par halam davashal tzibur. So what does that mean? So we're going to get back to that. But according to him, he says you can learn out the din of par yom kippur from a kal v'chaymer. So par is telling you something about halam davashal tzibur, and the par is the par koyin Mashiach, which is the same as we had. That was the same as we had said in the brisa from the beginning. Amar ma umaba makom shlo yishvu carbon lekarbon. What is it? We said that our kal v'chaymer of how we know the par of Yom Kippur is because we can make a kal v'chaymer. That par Yom Kippur is the same animal as the par helm davashal tzibur. So they certainly should have the same din, because we see sometimes you have things that have different animals and they still have the same din. So the very effect of Gemara, where do we see where do we find that? That two different animals, karbanos bought from different animals, have the same din. If you're going to say because the par of Yom Kippur and the soyer that's brought on Yom Kippur, those, it's true that they both have the same dinim, even though they're different animals, but that's because they're both bought lifnai v'lifnim is the avodah of Yom Kippur. But how do we know? So how are we going to know in Ardin by Param Davar Shel Tzibur and Par of Yom Kippur? Ella Param Davar Shel Tzibur Siri Avodas Kechavim. You're going to say because the Param Davar Shel Tzibur has the same dinim as the Siri Avodas Kechavim, which is a soil. Both of those are where you know what Avera was violated. So that's why they're similar and they have the same dinim. So, but on the other hand, over here we're comparing Param Davar Shel Tzibur, which is also on a mitzvah yidua, but to Yom Kippurim, the power of Yom Kippurim, that's just for general tumas that we don't know who was over on them. You're comparing the Param Davar Shel Tzibur with the Sar of Yom Kippur. The high power of a high Sar, even though the Param Davar Shel Tzibur, which is what we're talking about, and Sar of Yom Kippurim, which is a Sar, Hoshu Ma'isem L'Ma'isem, L'Mai de Kasabahu, that they have the same din, L'Gabi, those that you have to have the Shiva, the 7 Hazoyas toward the Paroichas, and the 4 on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. So they have both the same dinim, in spite of the fact that one is a par and the other one is a sar. And even though there are, Rashi explains that there are a lot of additional dinim that apply to the sar of Yom Kippur, but those are wherever they have the same, wherever there is an avodah that they both have, they're done in the same way. They have the same requirements. Malcolm Shahush with carbon the carbon, the high power, Lagabi this, our original, this is we're finally explaining, or Yehuda's Kal V'chaimer, that both par Helm Davar Shel Tzibur and Payim Kippurim are both parim. Eina din, isn't it certain Shahushvu Ma'isem L'Ma'isem? They should have the same requirements. Ba'asale par Yom Kippurim l'es b'dam u'tfila mipar koyin Mashiach. So that's how Rabbi Shmuel, I'm sorry, I said before Rabbi Yehuda, means Rabbi Shmuel learned the Kal V'chaimer to say they're going to have all of these extra 3 dinim. We learn it out from a Kal V'chaimer, and we won't need to learn it out from the pasuk of Chukah. And we also add in, just as an extra, the Sar of Yom Kippur, once we learned out Sira Avodas Kechavim, so we're going to learn out Sira Avodas Kechavim. We're going to learn out Sira Yom Kippurim from Sira Avodas Kechavim. Once we learn out Sira Avodas Kechavim from a Hekesh, so then learn it out from a Kal V'chaimer. Okay, we're going to stop over here, and now we're going to get into Davar Halom V'Hekesh Chayzim Malamed B'Kal V'chaimer, which I'm sure is going to be very fun for everyone.
Good.
Take care. Have a good day.
Have a good day.